Hi, and welcome back to yet another edition of Rabbi Stein's PPE. This week's Parsha, Parshat Vayechi, the last Parsha in the book of Bereshis or Genesis, the first book of the Torah. So yes, when we get ready to say Chazak, Chazak, Venit Chazek, that you should only become strong and only continue to pursue and be successful in your goals, I want to break down a little bit of an idea of this week's Parsha. So, Parshat Vayechi. What does Vayechi mean? Vayechi means, and he lived. It's all about life to l'chaim, to life. And what's interesting is, if you look about the content of the parsha, we talk about the life and times of Yaakov, as well as the offspring of the Shvatim, the children of, or the genealogy of Yaakov's descendants. Most prominent of those, we have Yosef. So we're going to look at how the death of Yaakov and the death of Yosef are both contained in a parsha that should be all about living, should be all about life. So what's the point? So it goes like this. Yaakov Avinu lives an incredible life of ups, of downs, of misery, of highlights, of lowlights, of whatever you want to call it. His first interaction with Paro asks him, "How old are you and how were your days?" And Yaakov responds, "My days were full of misery and anguish." What an answer! That's crazy. How do you say that to the most powerful person that you're going to be a guest next to? And Yaakov is actually punished from that response. But that's for another time, not for right now. So Yaakov passes away, and a whole entourage escorts him to Ma'arat HaMachpelah. They escort him to his final resting place, to the place of his ancestors, of Yitzchak and of Abraham, to where he's finally going to be laid to rest. Which, by the way, if you do find yourself in Eretz Yisrael, you can go to Ma'arat HaMachpelah and see his very kever, see his grave. And it's phenomenal that the characters that we read about in the Torah have an actual burial place, Bizman Hazeh, that you can go and touch and see and feel. But when Yosef passes away, he's not buried in Israel. Instead, he's buried in Mitzrayim. And so, again, that's could be for next week's parsha, that I'll get into a little later. But what I want to get down to is, why is a parsha called Vayechi when it revolves around the death of two very prominent characters? And the idea is as follows. We all have leaders, role models, mentors, people who have instilled with us incredible meaning and ideas and wisdom for us to live our lives. And what we do, especially our parents, and whenever we act, whether l'tov or l'ra, for good or for bad, our actions are a direct reflection on our upbringing. Whether it's from our parents, our grandparents, teachers, role models, counselors, you name it, rabbis, whatever it is. How we act is a direct representation of how we were raised and how we were taught. When we do good, everyone praises and commends the great relationship or great inspiration that you derived from those people. And chas v'shalom, if we do bad, so wow, look at the stuff that person comes from. Look at how prust or how negative that person can be. Yet what's most amazing is whenever we do a mitzvah in the name of someone, in the merit of someone, it's as if that person is benefiting directly from our actions. As if that person still chai v'kayem, as if that person's neshama is still alive. And whenever we do something positive, that person's getting a benefit, whether it's in this world or the next world. And it's a message that continues to pay forward. And that's the idea about Vayechi. The Torah tells us that Yaakov doesn't actually die. He collects himself on the bed, and that's it. Because as the Bnei Yisrael, as the children of Israel, we're always doing mitzvahs, we're always following the Torah, and we're always surging forward in the footsteps of our ancestors, continuously keeping Yaakov Avinu alive. Because Yaakov was known as Israel. And Israel, Chai v'Kayam. Am Yisrael Chai. Shabbat Shalom.